May the 20th, 2021. Guys, you're looking at satellite images starting from last night, which you're seeing in the first frames in the infrared image. And you can see as the sunrise this morning and the satellite camera switched to the real view. Now, notice how all this is trailing up through Louisiana, Texas, and Mississippi. In the last few days, Louisiana has taken the brunt of this, and I've mentioned it in the video this morning. And that continues. It's much lighter than it's been. Still cloudy, sprinkles, and rain coming in. Not much sun to dry anything out. Because we're getting that season. This thing is feeding from Gulf moisture. And if you look to the right of Florida, the very right side of the screen coming in, you can see a lot of Atlantic moisture is joining the Gulf moisture. Now, the mayor of Lake Charles, Louisiana, said it was 2 days ago that it was the third highest flood in history. And you got hit by 2 hurricanes last year, Laura and, what was the other one, guys? Someone put it in the comments. But there's people that have came on the local news in Lake Charles and said the flooding they're getting now is much worse than they got in both of those hurricanes. And they were devastating. And another thing that I'd mentioned in the last couple of days was that it almost seems that the conditions are right for a tropical depression. But if you think about folks saying that we've got more rain than the 2 hurricanes that came within 6 weeks of each other last year, and you had the ice storm and now this. But if you think about that, then what's the difference in as far as flooding in a hurricane and a system like this? They're calling, they really haven't named it anything. We'll just call it a tropical depression, whatever. We'll say whatever is trying desperately to form. But my point is this: if it's worse than the 2 bad hurricanes last year, then there's not a lot of difference if now your homes are flooded. And if you look at the images from Lake Charles, there's cars underwater, people in boats and stuff. It's starting to let up. But look what's coming again just out of the Bay of Campeche. And notice in the last frames, at the surface level, you can see the system trying to turn in, trying to wrap itself around counterclockwise like a tropical depression, storm, or hurricane would do. I'm not saying they're going to name this one, but there's, again, the damage has been done worse than the 2 hurricanes last year. But what we need to do, guys, you may be getting somewhat of a break. You can see it's still cloudy in a lot of areas, but this thing could continue to develop. We have days now coming up to where your UV radiations are going to go from 4 on the scale up to 12, which is extreme on several days, and everything heats up. The sun burns everything else like I've talked about. Again, notice that we're getting a lot of low-level movement coming in out of the Atlantic. The very upper level, you'll see an opposite movement from left to right of the clouds or the wind movement that causes the wind shear. But the early storms always come out of the Caribbean and the Gulf. And things are chaotic now with the planet and with the weather. And we're just going to have to pay a very close attention to this. Now, again, watch the last few frames. You can see this storm trying to start what they would, I guess, a subtropical rotation. But whatever they want to call it, it's already done more flooding damage in Louisiana than the last 2 hurricanes. And so we need to pay attention to this storm. I want to look at the wider view. Checking out and going through the same time frame and the same nighttime infrared images, and then the sweep going into the true vision or the real view images. And you can see how far this moisture has extended northward. Check this out, guys. All the way into the Great Lakes, and then kind of turning, trying to get pulled into a system that they're watching in the Atlantic. So this tells you how long, look at this trail of this moisture, that the people there in Louisiana, Texas, and all these states are going through. Look at the trouble, because, again, even a tropical depression may not pull this much moisture this far north. But this view backing out gives you a real close idea. Pay attention to it as we come to the last frames. It's a big, kind of not very organized, And then you can see the classic outflow here of a tropical depression or a tropical storm. And if you look in the top right of your screen, this is the storm that we mentioned earlier in the video that was east of the Bahamas. Now, this is the system I was talking about this morning. National Hurricane Center 5-day forecast is what you're looking at. Now, the center of circulation then was a little further south than Bermuda, and it's moved somewhat north. It's still about 600. Let's pull this up. It's a 90% chance of formation in 5 days. It is a 80% chance of formation in 48 hours. This was at 2 p.m. Eastern, May 20th, today. So that's going to put it, about 3 hours or so ago. But a non-tropical low-pressure system located about 650 miles northeast of Bermuda is now moving northward. Recent satellite wind data indicate that this system has gale force winds. The low is expected to turn westward, which would be back to the left, back towards land, and west-southward, which is diving down over warmer waters tonight and Friday, and it will likely become a subtropical cyclone near and to the northeast of Bermuda on Friday. That's tomorrow. After that time, the system is expected to move toward the north and northeast into a more hostile environment by late Sunday into Monday. Cooler water. It says, for more information on this developing low-pressure area, please see high seas forecast issued by NOAA. That's what we're dealing with. Again, it's going to dip south, and you can see the pattern of the circle. And so Bermuda, all of our friends there, you're definitely going to feel some impact, whether it's rip currents, high winds, high waves, or the combination of all three in the next few days. So pay attention to that. And nothing is being mentioned here in the Bay of Campeche, and we'll be very fortunate if it dies down and nothing is mentioned. But that's not my job. My job is to tell you what I see, and that concerns me. But we're watching it, guys. Maybe you got folks in Louisiana and Texas and southwest Mississippi will get enough break on the rain to where some of the river levels drop. That's what you need to pay attention to, because there could be more weather tied into the very bottom of this system. Again, what I just showed you in the Gulf, that's coming your way. And if it picks up steam, a lot of times, guys, it will not stay in that north pattern. It's going to veer left and then maybe back to the right. But they love to cut hard right or hard east as the outer edges touch the land. And because of that, that shifts that motion of the hurricane. You think about the sheer force just coming through the hills and the trees. But we're watching this, guys. You watch it. I've got a feeling, and so are the meteorologists from all the different hurricane tracking places. They're saying this is going to be a rough season. So buckle up. It's a heads up. Be safe.